Well, this is remarkable. This is a former Conservative minister. Now a shadow minister, yeah. Kevin Hollinrake kept his seat, despite a number of his ministerial colleagues losing out on re-election. Right, let's say hello to Mr Hollinrake. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
What is it like coming back as a shadow minister?
Well, Parliament doesn't start till tomorrow, so I'll tell you better then. But clearly, listen, I mean, we've got to regroup, we've got to rebuild and present a viable opposition to the Labour Party. That's what we intend to do. So it's not where we'd like to be; it's where we are. And to be honest, personally, I'm very optimistic about the future. We've got to, I say, become a united force behind a new leader. That's exciting times ahead for me.
And there's a real choice, isn't there, Mr Hollinrake, about whether the Conservative Party decides to spend the next 2 months analysing what Labour is doing in the new government, or goes straight into a very early leadership election and gets distracted away. Do you think that's going to happen?
I personally think we should take longer than that to get the right person in place. We need to take a few months to decide exactly what went wrong, and then decide the right person to take us forward and to take present a viable challenge to the Labour Party, which I think we can do. And one very good thing for us in terms of the result from last week was that there was very little appetite for a Labour government. It was a very low vote share. I think there's no doubt that what we saw on the doorsteps is reflected in the national result. Is there was very little appetite for Keir Starmer. So if we can regroup, unite, get a good leader, present the alternative, I think we can be in good shape to present a viable case for a Conservative government in 2029. That's what we'll be setting out to do. As I say, I don't think there's any rush to get the right person in place to do that.
It sounds pretty remarkable that you say there was a little appetite for a Labour government when they won such a huge landslide. There was clearly little appetite for Rishi Sunak and the existing Conservative government. So, firstly, have you spoken to Rishi Sunak? How is he doing? And secondly, who should lead the party?
I saw Rishi on Friday morning when he left Downing Street. So, but he was typically, upbeat. He was, obviously Rishi takes it. He does feel it. This was a very difficult night for us. He feels personally responsible for that. Rishi's a great person, but so yes, I've spoken to Rishi, but we've got to look forward now. We've got to look forward in terms of finding the right person. I don't know who the right person will be. I don't know who's going to step forward right now, but that's the work of the next few months. I think it's very, very important that we present two good alternatives for our membership to have the final say on this, of course. But that'll take a number of months to do that.
Who are you looking forward to, Mr Hollinrake?
That's part of the opportunity ahead.
Who are you looking forward to?
Sorry, my earpiece is popping
out.
I was asking,
you said we have to look forward, and I was wondering who you were looking forward to being the next Tory leader.
Well, I say I don't even know who's going to stand yet. So let's see what happens over the next few months. People will decide whether they're going to throw their hat in the ring or not. But I think we've got some great candidates. That's clearly the runners and riders you'll be very familiar with from the last leadership contest. So we'll see what happens.
Can I ask you one question about your old job? You came in late into the business department to sort out the mess in the post office, to try and get the compensation scheme moving. And, of course, we had the ITV documentary, which came while you were the minister. Lots of concern amongst the postmasters and mistresses, people who lost their businesses. The compensation has been slow to come through. When you look back, what went wrong with getting the compensation out quickly? What advice would you give to your successor who's taking over this agenda? How can we make sure we make things right for the people who suffered so badly quickly?
Well, I've always worked very closely with Johnny Reynolds, who's the new business secretary. I've contacted him already to offer my help if he needs any. I'm sure he doesn't need any. But if necessary, I'm very happy to help Johnny and anybody else get the compensation out the door to these people who desperately need it and deserve it. I think it was the last thing we did in Parliament was to overturn 700 convictions, which opens the door to compensation for all those people who had been wrongly convicted. So that should be, it's a much easier job now to get that money out the door to those people. We've made the whole system much less complex in terms of trying to gain compensation, which I think will make it much easier to get that money out the door, as I say. So I think over the next few months, you'll see hundreds of millions of pounds go to the people who need and deserve that money, that redress. The other job that's to be done then is to hold somebody to account. And I think the inquiry itself is doing a very good job of identifying who's responsible for what happened. And for me, I've been very clear, so that whoever is identified as being responsible should be prosecuted.
Where do you think now, because you're now out of government and you're free to speak your mind, where fundamentally do you think the responsibility lies? Who would you like, which institutional person should be where the finger is pointed?
Well, as you know, our police forces, our prosecution services are independent of government. I think that's absolutely right that they are. So I think it'd be wrong for me to identify an individual. But, you know, I think it's fair to say this starts at the top. You know, the evidence is coming out quite clearly that individuals knew what was going on, decided not to act. And I think, as I say, the inquiry, that's their job, to get the evidence out there, find out who knew what. But ultimately, the book stops right at the top, and I think the evidence is there that those people at the top knew what was going on. So I would welcome any action taken by the Met Police or the Crown Prosecution Service to basically take evidence under caution from the right individuals, and then from that, charges should follow. And I think it's. That's what the public would reasonably expect, and it's what I would reasonably expect. One of the last things I did in government was write to the Met Police as a minister to say, you know, what's happening, where are we? And I really hope we'll get a good answer to that in terms of the progress of the investigation.
Kevin Hollinrake, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure, thank you.
Good to talk to you. I don't know if you could hear that, Andrew and Kevin, but that was the former Postal Minister, Kevin Hollinrake, saying that he wants action to be taken. He thinks that the buck stops right at the top of the post office when it comes to the postal workers. He's offered his services to Jonathan Reynolds, who is the new business secretary, if he needs any help in sort of processing everything that he got underway. I mean, the post office scandal, of course,
and actually,
has still to be resolved.
He actually said he wrote a final letter at the end of his time in government urging the Metropolitan Police to get on with evidence under caution and
charges.
He's a good man, Kevin Hollinrake. I'm not being party free here. He really is a good man. And actually, I think the Postal, we shouldn't forget, it's one of the great scandals of our lifetime. And there should be criminal charges. It seemed obvious to me there was some criminal potential conspiracy allowing those innocent postmasters and postmasters to go to court predicated on a lie, that they were the only ones who knew how to use that Horizon IT system. And the buck should stop at the top. And I'm not going to name the person, but we think we saw her giving evidence once or twice in tears, didn't we? At the inquiry.
I'm attempting to overcome the urge to say he wants Labour to take action. He didn't. But if there is anything useful he can contribute to Jonathan Reynolds, the new business secretary, then I think they should listen to him. I think it's quite good for Britain if people who have previous experience, as he will have coming out of the job, do speak to their successors in a very positive, objective way, and the successors can listen and follow it or ignore it. But if he's offering, I think that is good.
And you'll have to let this inquiry, which is taking far too long, I think, run its course, and that's them. But the police should be looking at it now.
But it's another problem, a mess inherited from this government by the next one, as is contaminated blood and the 12 billion payouts, as is the Ombudsman's ruling on the WASPy pensions women, about $1 billion payouts. The COVID inquiry is ongoing. There are lots of issues that are going to the in-tray of the incoming government, including we started full prisons in England and Wales.
And I bet you that bill for contaminated blood is going to end up being even bigger. It's going to be billions and billions of pounds.
Well, I think it's 12 already, isn't it?
Huge.
And you know, people have suffered for decades in a terrible way and been neglected. It's got to be honoured.
People are dying, and they're still dying because of it.
As are the WASPy women.